everyone, I am Bam Mei Ting and this is Spill the Tea, a podcast by Penang Institute. When it comes to football, many would think about international footballers and the clubs that they belong to, branded jerseys and even roaring crowds. That is, of course, on an international level. On the domestic level, the enthusiasm during local leagues in Malaysia might be of a different nature. Now, admittedly, my introduction to Malaysian football was through the 2016 movie Ola Bola, which highlighted the glories of the national team in qualifying for the 1980 Summer Olympics. To help us learn more about Malaysia's football scene, we have with us today Jeffrey Chew, General Manager of the Penang Football Club, who is also on the board of directors of the Malaysian Football League. Thank you for joining us, Jeffrey.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Now, let's start the ball rolling, pun intended, by talking about the larger picture of the local football scene. Yeah. So, can you walk us through your recollections of the Malaysian football history?
Okay. In order to understand what Malaysian football history is all about, of course, I'm not going to go through the timelines and stuff like that, but it actually started much earlier than what we expected. What you see today is a organic growth of what football has been throughout the world, starting from little leagues up to semi-pro, up to what we see today as a professional league. Now, actually Malaysia started their, I would say, the football way back during the colonial times. Okay. In fact, it was one of the most favorite sport where our colonial era, the British, they brought football into Malaysia. What has happened is over the years, Malaysian football came to what we call a very structured formation. If I'm not mistaken, it was sometime in 1920s where we were still known as Malaya. And in 1933, I think they formed the Malaysian Football Association of Malaya. Okay, now historically, Penang FA was established in 1921. So if you calculate back, we have a century-old association. Now, having said all these things, Penang, as well as all the Strait Settlement states, seem to have a liking to the sport, purely because the British had more influence in this area. Now, over the years, of course, after Merdeka, the formation of FAM, now known as Football Association Malaysia, they set the ground rules of how the games are going to be played. They were represented by state teams, all the different 13 states, and then slowly it became more professional level, where clubs were formed. Today, due to the organic growth of football, what we see here today is different clubs are now corporatized after the Football Association Malaysia decided to say that this club should be having private limited or Sendirian Berhad level, where they will be accountable to their own funds, P&L, so that it will be more accountable to the members that are affiliated to the clubs. That's why we have Penang Football Club, we have Selangor Football Club, we have Kedah FC, and today what you have is actually 14 clubs throughout Malaysia competing in what we call the Super League, which is the best of the best, cream of the crop, where you have to compete among smaller clubs to get where you are. If you don't do well, you get relegated to what we call the Reserve League.
Okay.
And if from the bottom up, which is the M3 teams, they will like to compete and get to Super League teams.
I see.
Of course, they have to go through a level of progress. They have played an average of 20 over games a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, today professionalism and the emergence of FIFA, which Malaysia joined in 1933, sometime in 1933, if I'm not wrong, it became like a synchronized calendar. If there is a holiday period, an international break they call it, Malaysian players, Croatian players, Mexican players, they will represent their country to play in friendly games. Now, I'm not sure if next year is the Olympics, it gets more intense because Olympics will probably be a time where each country will send representatives. They have to compete in different countries, different region. So A footballer's life is not just clubs. I think the aspiration of footballers is basically trying to get to an international level. Some, as you can see in Japan, Korea, Thailand, they have professional players in professional leagues
Yes.
worldwide.
Yeah.
Where we are today is what we call the growth of a new era. Today, if you follow the new development of Harimau Malaya playing in under 23, which they lost last night 1-0 to Thailand, but they still qualify for next year's Asia Cup.
Okay. Right.
Whereas the senior team is trying to bring their ranking up. So they will have to play different games with higher ranking teams to have a better increase of points. And that's why you see the ranking.
Yeah.
Just to give you a nutshell of how this professional level clubs has evolved over the years. So this is where we are today.
Okay. Just taking a step back, you were saying 14 clubs. Does that actually mean each state is represented?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
For instance, I give you an example. Kelantan actually have Kelantan FC,
Okay.
Kelantan United.
Okay.
Each actually have funding from different sources.
All right.
Now, Penang can have 2 teams, or even 3 teams for that matter, but they have to work their way up.
Okay.
Like the team Penang FC, they were in the 2nd division, which is called Premier League.
Okay.
In 2020, they won the championship.
All right.
3 years later, they are still in the Super League
All right.
because they have been able to maintain themselves from being relegated. Relegation is usually 13 or 14 position. So today we are at 10. We're still not so impressive, but at least we are there.
Okay,
We try our best to get where we are.
And these clubs, you were just saying that, so are they funded by different sources?
Yes. Funds come from different sources.
Okay.
The reason why FAM decided to corporatize it is because usually funds come from the state government.
Okay.
For that matter, Penang does get a huge chunk of probably 90% from the state government. But we as a club needs to also engage our stakeholders, sponsors, to get funding.
Okay.
Now, other clubs are privately funded too. For example, Kelantan FC, 100% owned by an individual.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Johor FC, JDT,
Okay, yeah.
100% owned by the businesses owned by the royal family.
Yeah.
Selangor, probably some portion owned by the royal family too.
Okay.
But majority also state government. So it's a combination of both. But the best part about corporatization is MFL, which is the governing body assigned by Federation Association of Malaysia, is to ensure that all these clubs comply to all the different rules of finance, HR, so that when they apply for license every year, which we all have to go through, we will comply. If we don't comply, we can't play.
Okay.
We can't play in, even no matter how good your team is, if you fail in one of those submissions, which could be tedious, 6-7 months, we may not be able to play also.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were talking about rankings just a moment ago. So Malaysia's national football team, as you mentioned just now, also fondly known as Harimau Malaya, ranks 136 in the world, according to the latest world rankings by FIFA, out of 208 international teams. And we're 24th in Asia and 4th in Southeast Asia. So what are your thoughts about this ranking?
I think we have to look at how we became 4th in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
There must be a reason why we are number 4. Years ago, in the 80s, we actually qualified for Olympics.
That's right. Yeah.
Under Satok Singh, So Jin An. Many of these names may be sounding foreign to some of the young players, but they were football greats. They play football because out of passion. Now, to get that ranking, probably they have to actually compete in different competition. Asia level, Southeast Asia level, Asia level, and then world stage. These are the 3 components that actually help a team to get the ranking. Every win, you get certain points.
Okay.
Every loss with a lower ranked team, you get deduction.
Okay.
So
right.
for instance, last night, 2 days ago when we played with China, it
Yes,
is a
it
draw
was a
game.
draw, yeah.
don't forget, China is ranked 80th in the in the world.
Yep.
We are ranked 136. A year ago, we were actually below 136. We were actually 140, 150. FAM made a very bold move to engage foreign coaches. Fortunately, we use our local coaches. We progressed a little bit. But under this new coach, Kim Pang-won, is from Korea, looks like there is a movement. Players are more consistent. The gameplay is more focused. To get the ranking, you're playing with the big teams overseas. Players must be inducted in a professional league to be able to help national team grow. Now, there is also a shortcut way where we have foreign players staying in Malaysia for more than 3 years.
Right.
They get naturalized, they become Malaysian indirectly. These are being done throughout the world. This effort is good and bad. Good in the sense that you bring in talents to help the team grow. The unfortunate part is sometimes you forget to see who are your local talents.
Right.
Give you an example. The night when Malaysia scored the first goal, that young man, he's only 26 if I'm not mistaken, or 27. He's actually from Mengkuang, Penang. Faisal Halim.
Yep.
Faisal has outgrown his professional career. He started about 17 years old. His father actually guided him through all the way. Now, we need more of Faisal Halim. We need more of Santok Singhs.
Yep.
We need more of Aran Mugam, Sochin An. These are the football greats who can actually grow within their professional level and help team increase their ranking.
Yeah.
Ranking is important because ranking will decide where you play. World Cup, what kind of seeding that you get. Sometimes if you're seeded very poorly, you have to play with a very top team. You know the consequences will be the top team probably have a better advantage. Now, if you are a higher ranked team, you could actually lose to a lower ranked team.
Yes.
Or even draw, just like China.
Yeah.
You could see the fans. I don't know you watched the game.
I didn't.
They showed a lot of displeasure. People were shouted at.
Yeah.
But that is what we call passion.
Yes.
Football is, if properly contained, it is a place where family can enjoy the game together and cheer and cry together. I always use that word, cheer and cry together, because it's a lot of emotions. If you are not into football, you just don't understand why this lady and this man is actually shedding tears because they lost.
Yeah.
Or why did they jump up and down like when I was in Korea, I watched the World Cup, Italy versus South Korea. I remember that night I didn't sleep for 3 nights because no one slept after they beat Italy. The golden goal.
Yeah.
That was enormous. The feeling was like first Asian team to really outshine the Italian team, European team.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I think ranking is important.
Okay.
In anything we do, even professional, other than football, tennis, badminton.
Yes.
Badminton, we are always in the top 10, top 20.
Yeah.
That helps us to get to professional level.
You were mentioning the draw between Harimau Malaya and the China team. Yes, I read that the China fans were demanding for a refund of their tickets because of their disappointment. And so this brings me back to our local football scene, where every time there's a match between Kedah and Penang, it's very often that there's some risk of some scuffles between the fans, whether it is within the stadium or outside of the stadium. And like you mentioned, and of course for me, while I do not condone violence, but like you say, it is a show of passion. And I would say a sense of ownership of the game. So it is definitely not an entirely bad thing, right? When you see fans scuffling, fighting almost, because it shows how much they are invested into the game and how much they feel for the clubs or the team that they're supporting. So what further thoughts do you have on this?
I think having been involved in managing the club for almost 2.5 years, I am an avid Liverpool fan. If you want to compare that passion versus what we have what they have in England. England progressed from hooliganism until today, where it's very focused, very structured. People moving in and out is very regimental. The home crowd goes in first. The away fans will be escorted by the police to go into the stadium.
Oh, wow.
They have a little corner where they are all seated away from the home fans. All purely done because what we call a progression of historical violence that happened. Back in the early 90s, where something happened in Enfield, there was a major stampede.
Okay.
Almost 96 people died and things like that.
goodness.
So if you look at that level of violence, over the years, different countries have their own problems. Now, to your question about Penang versus Kedah, I equate that as a northern derby.
Okay.
Northern derby means we are just neighbours, but we have this, my team is better than your team.
Yeah.
So they have fans. In Malaysia, the fans don't really spend as great amount of money as compared to the British or European teams, but they are still fans. They are important stakeholders. They have their supporter group. They sing songs. They beat drums. In all these things, this is what we call heating up the emotions.
Okay.
So for Penang versus Kedah game that night, it was well contained in the stadium. Very much well contained. They were all separated well. The fans were all separated well. But obviously, when fans go out, they have to go back to their buses and stuff like that. Things happen. Now, things that happen outside the stadium is really beyond the control of Penang FC or even Kedah FC. We do not really know what actually happened. So the police luckily were on hand to really make the violence just stop.
Okay.
It could be seen like few skirmish fighting, but it's not as serious as in Indonesia.
Okay.
If you want to compare what is serious, Indonesia is serious. I spoke to one coach who coached in Liga 2 yesterday. Because he's a Malaysian, when the team loses, he's been called different names.
Oh,
And
wow.
he felt very intimidated and frightened during his first few years there. But that is what we call passion. Passion can be expressed well. Can be expressed well by having chants, singing, beating of drum, waving flags, but not to the level of fighting. I think that is not very what we call
Not the right way.
not a civil way lah.
Yeah.
If you were to ask me what my views are about this issue, I think both sides they realize that if they were to do it too extreme, they could be banned, and it's going to be bad for everyone.
Yeah.
And the stadium could be empty, just like pre-COVID.
Oh.
Yeah, it has happened where fans are being said to be violent. Both sides, home and away. You have the next game. We're going to make sure that you don't sell tickets. You're going to play in empty stadium. That's the punishment they get.
I see.
Now, when you have that kind of situation, you know what will happen, right? The revenue of tickets will drop. Your merchants can't sell their merchandise. Nobody is coming to the stadium.
Yeah.
So I always encourage our supporters to express their anger in the right channel. Not by beating up people, not by insulting people or throwing eggs at people. No, I think the best way is, there's a forum, just express it.
Right.
In a stadium, waving flags and all that.
Yeah.
Of course, you hear a lot of jeering and all that, which is common. It's common.
It's common in any sport.
Yeah,
Actually.
correct.
Yeah. So, coming to the point of watching the matches in the stadium live instead of watching behind a TV screen, what's the reception of people watching the games in the stadium?
From a business standpoint, I always like to talk from a business standpoint. When teams are doing well, it's correlated.
Okay.
Fans will come in droves. They will glamour the players. They want to be taking pictures of the players. The hardcore fans, win or lose, they will be with the team.
Okay.
Rain or shine, they'll be in. That brings up to my next description, how the feeling of being in the stadium. I'm not sure you've been once, but you should come. Next week, there's another game with Hari Ini FT.
Okay.
It's a Challenger Cup. Basically, the feeling is a bit different. You are going into a 72-year-old stadium called Stadium Bandaraya, which is Penang.
Yep.
Many have not has experienced it. I grew up in that stadium. I watched games. When I was 8 years old, I saw Malaysia lift the final time. Penang lift the final time the Piala Malaysia in that very stadium, and that stadium is known as Keramat Raw.
Yep.
You have almost well over 10,000 people there. Back then, it was huge. Imagine no cars, nothing but people coming by bicycles, motorbikes, thousands of people. I still remember my family friend actually carrying me on his bike to bring me to that stadium. And when we won, that's the expression when people crying, people cheering. Back then, there was no what we call very well organized. It's just like buying tickets, go in. Sometimes you don't get to buy tickets, you also go in.
Yes.
Yeah. So the feeling of being in a stadium, it is really something really different. You feel the air, you see the floodlights, you see a nice padang, you see people cheering. Sometimes when the rain comes, you get a little bit wet because the splashing of the rain. But I always encourage families to go.
Okay.
The only thing that is drawback is it starts at 9 p.m. sometimes.
Okay.
And if it's a Sunday, sorry, many are working. But hardcore fans will come even no matter how late it is.
Yep.
During Puasaman, it starts at 10,
Okay.
ends at 12.
Okay.
All of us go back by 2 o'clock sometimes. So there is this thing. So MFL, Malaysian Football League, started early games on Saturdays. That actually brought in interesting crowd. Mother, sisters, grandmothers with their family, buying food, sitting by the grandstand and watching.
That's nice.
5:30 the game starts. By the time you finish, it's 7:30. You go for your dinner nearby. If you are near in town, you go to Din Maju, Line Clear, majority of the families, they enjoy the early times, especially if it's on the weekend. So I can see that it will eventually bring in the crowd, as well as for outstation crowds.
Yes, definitely.
Like JDT recently, well over 8,000 people show up.
Wow.
JDT had almost 1,000 crowd. Penang, we knew the game is going to go the other way, not our way.
Yeah.
But they still come because JDT is the top team.
Exactly.
How many goals will Penang let go? The kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was a feeling of at least coming to see firsthand.
Yeah.
You can see it at home, no problem. Today with Astro, you can actually go into, even it's a live telecast, you can go to the segment where you can actually watch it. Games at before.
Yeah.
You can rewind. But the feeling is very, very different.
Nothing beats the feeling of being in the stadium itself and just immersing into the game.
Yes, correct.
No money can buy that feeling, I'm sure.
I mean, for myself, I've been to well over 12 to 14 stadiums around the world. London, Manchester, Liverpool, Southampton, Bayern Munich, France.
Yeah.
One of the most unusual stadium was actually in Indonesia.
Okay, why is that so?
Huge.
Okay.
The crowd was huge. You're talking about 40 to 50,000 people.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you can only see that in Europe, but you never expect that to happen in Indonesia. So if you want to say huge, I think Indonesia has the capacity. That's why they're always ranked very high. Even we are usually below Thailand, Vietnam, and Philippines. Philippines is not so exciting because they have other sports called basketball. They are very American in baseball.
Yeah.
So slowly we are getting there.
Okay. Yeah. I definitely love to attend.
You must
one of the matches soon in the stadium.
Stadium, yes.
Stadium Bandaraya because I play different other sports and so I completely understand how it feels like to be at a competition venue and really just joining in the crowd to cheer for your team. And I'm sure that must be priceless.
Yes,
that
it
feeling
is.
is definitely priceless compared to watching it from a telecast.
Correct.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the fan base of Penang FC. You were saying just now that when the matches are brought, and I mean when they are played earlier in the day, you began to see a different sort of crowd, mothers, grandmothers, sisters. But in general, though, what is the fan base of Penang FC like?
Okay. Traditionally, this sport, while it is played by many races, I mean in Malaysia we are multiracial.
Yeah.
The bulk of the fan base are actually Malays.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about professional Malays. We're talking about people who, after a hard day's work, selling nasi lemak, they will come. And then they'll feel very angry if the team doesn't work, doesn't even play well.
Disappointment.
And yes, and they're not armchair critics. Some of the comments they make is well received because it doesn't. You don't actually have to be a coach to actually see yourself.
Right.
They see games much clearer than us because they spend their whole day working, but when they come, they see a different perspective of the game. So we always appreciate the fans because no matter how you say, they are also the major stakeholder in our ecosystem.
Yep.
So to say that who are our major fan base, they are mainly working class, Muslim Malays, Indians, and then Chinese. Chinese is a little bit less in terms of this because either they are more inclined to watch the Premier Leagues,
Right.
the La Liga, the Spanish league, or even the Ligue 1 in France, but they still come. The hardcore ones do come, and they buy season passes. We only managed to sell 200-300 season passes.
Okay.
But do you know that they will sing and swim with the team, no matter how bad it is. Also, they will be very, very
turn up to be support.
yeah, they will turn up. So this is something that is always fulfilling for me when you see why people come to these games. They're not here because they want to see Penang just win. They want to see that the players put their heart and soul into it, which they themselves on a normal day, they put their heart and soul to earn a living.
Yep.
They expect the players to do the same
do
thing
the
too.
same.
Put their heart and soul into making the game win. Even if it's draw also doesn't matter. If they lose, don't lose big.
Yeah.
At least some goals, unfortunate. Own goal, which is quite common in football anyway.
Okay.
Own goal. The defenders move in too fast and the ball hit their leg and then we go straight into the ball in the net. So this is some things I noticed.
Okay. Okay. And taking a step back, would social media help in bringing in more fans?
Yeah, I think in this day and age, social media is now playing a very important part. If you were to ask anyone who reads printed media, the readership is actually lower than expected. But people now are migrating into social media. Penang FC, for that matter, we use social media extensively. We profile players while on training and all that. Although our board of directors seems to think that next year we should do more, where we have events that welcome new players, which I think is good. And also show some part of the players' life in Penang. You have some foreign players, you don't really know how they live their life in Penang. I'll give you an example. Sonny Saad, he's a Muslim, American Lebanese. When he was in Penang, first time in his life in Penang, during Puasaman, he went to Ramadan Bazaar, buy things, even do the zakat, which he knows in his world, they do the same thing too.
Yep.
So there is a way to use our social media to reach out to people and say, hey, this is what we do. And we also want to look into reaching out to the younger crowd because the younger crowd are the key people that will form the next line of players. So all I can say is I'm glad that at least the grassroots level is still very active.
When you say the younger crowd, do you mean those, like teenagers and
it could be well below
younger than
17
that?
years. It could be 10 years old league. They even have 10 years old league, 15-year-old league, school league, different district schools competition. All these are important games. So how social media will reach out is to show how the team is doing, what do they do during their free time, who are the key people, who are the managers, who are the management people, things like that.
One last question,
Sure.
Jeffrey, before we wrap up. So what do you think needs to be done to encourage more enthusiasm, basically, from Malaysians for our local football teams?
I think there should be some excitement. When I say excitement means, look at how badminton has progressed. I did a very funny example, but I was watching a game that night the way they enter the stadium, there's a lot of lights.
Yes, it is almost like a party.
Like a party. It's just like a
All
welcoming.
the neon lights.
Yeah, all
It's
the
like
neon lights
WWE.
flashing, you know.
Yeah.
Now, that's what we call commercialization. I think
Yes.
that part of commercialization is still very much not there in Malaysia.
Okay.
They try. MFL is trying,
Yeah.
where they march in with children,
Yeah.
show of flags, national anthem, but they don't actually go to the level of really putting a little bit of excitement in the game. When a goal is scored, of course the announcer will stretch like the South American
Yeah.
announcer does. But
Yeah.
I still think that that level of excitement should now be carried down to school level,
Alright.
where kids or even those under 20 will have the same experience. And then when they come to that level of being in a professional league, if they ever choose to become a professional, they can impart some of these ideas how to make it much fun. Don't
Much
forget,
more attractive.
yeah, they're playing 90 minutes,
Yeah.
For a normal human being, it is a very tiring. They burn
Yes.
thousands of calories. Just some run at least 8 kilometers up and down for the next 90 minutes. It's a
Yeah.
scary. Sometimes I do run.
Yeah.
I do understand the intensity of it. But can you imagine it's 90 minutes
90
and they have
minutes of it.
15-minute break in the dressing
Yeah.
room? If they are losing, can you imagine it's
Yeah,
terrible.
the spirit. Yeah.
The spirit is how the game is being structured. It's very competitive. Professional
is.
league is very competitive. So if you were to ask me how can we make more people to come, I think number one, we should get more engagement from all parties. Tourism could be playing a factor in here. For instance, tourism, what do you call, body in Penang for that matter, can also try to promote in other states. You know, Penang is going to, let's say, Kelantan, or maybe to go Johor. I could safely say maybe the tourism Penang can actually do some booths over in. I don't think the people in Johor or whatever will not allow you to set up something like information kiosk about Penang. Visit Penang.
Yeah, should definitely capitalize on
Yes,
events like this.
and then the tourism dollars are high. They don't come alone. They come with a family.
Yeah.
They come on Friday night games. They don't run back to Johor immediately. They stay in Penang. Oh, where will I eat today? Hey, I saw this. Okay, mean the impact is there. So I think using social media extensively together with the strengths what Penang has to offer,
Yeah.
you can bring in more crowd from outstation. For a local crowd, I think most importantly, it has to be a concerted effort between the state agencies to promote football as a time for locals to go and see the game.
Okay.
Now, give an example. We see many foreigners walking in.
Yes. Okay.
We ask a question, do you know who is playing? No. Why are you here? It's a football game. It's fun.
Okay.
So we have many Americans that walk in, British, German, Russian, Chinese national.
Yeah.
I always feel that there is a market for that kind of thing. All you have to say, guys, tonight there's a football game. Anyone interested?
Yep.
In a crowd of a tour group of 50, you get 10 or 20, that's good enough already.
Yeah. I mean, if I were a tourist, I'd totally
I
go
would
watch
go.
the match in
Yeah.
the stadium.
Buying the
because
jerseys as a mementos.
Exactly. Yeah.
How much is this? 100 ringgit. Buy lah,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that level should be done.
Okay.
We shouldn't see it from a commercial standpoint. We should not see it at a time where teams must win to get people to come back. We should see it as a time to promote this as a additional outlet. So also the stadium facilities must improve lah.
Okay.
People go to the malls because they have ample car parks.
Yes.
People go to stadiums, they also must have ample car
Ample car
parks.
park, yeah.
And the ease of buying tickets is now online. You can buy online.
Yeah.
Don't have to line up. So all these are being done. So I think the only thing now is we hope that Penang team will continue to play better for the next 5 games or down the road. Then at least we have a good season next year.
Okay. Jeffrey, thanks so much
Thank
for
you,
speaking with me today.
Yes, you're most welcome.
Yeah, I've been speaking to Jeffrey Chew, board member of the Malaysian Football League and general manager of the Penang Football Club. This is Spill the Tea, a podcast by Penang Institute.
Thank you.